Namaste everybody. On behalf of Team Dharmawiki, I welcome you all to the fourth session in Dharmawiki Talks. It's a series of talks on various topics in the Bharatiya Jnana Parampara or the Indian knowledge systems. Dharmawiki, a part of Honeybee project initiated at IIT Bombay, is envisioned as an endeavor to build narratives, learn, contribute, discuss and reflect on the innumerable angles of Bharatiya Jnana Parampara. This is to leave behind a legacy for the generations to come. Now, here's a short video outlining the need for having a platform like Dharmawiki. So we are always looking forward to connect with all those who would be willing to contribute towards the research and documentation of this indigenous knowledge of Bharatavarsha. You can stay connected with us through social media platforms such as GeoChat, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, etc. You can also subscribe to the newsletters by visiting dharmawiki.org and clicking on the subscribe to Dharmawiki newsletters. You can see our previous newsletters by clicking on the tab previous Dharmawiki newsletters on this main page that you can see here. In this present series of Dharmawiki Talks, we in the team aim to reach out to all inquisitive seekers of the Bharatiya Jnana Parampara. We are thankful to our sponsors, the Ashok Goel Trust and the Hindu University of America, for their continued support in this endeavor. The topic for today is Shraddha and Bhakti, a conceptual exploration. And this will be presented to us by our author and team member, Kumari Kanakavalli Santanam. Kanakavalli ji has a bachelor's in Sanskrit and a master's in Sanskrit and music. She is actively involved in the fields of Samskrita, Sangeeta, and Nritya. With a rich background in ancient Indian culture, tradition, philosophy, literature, she has been associated with Dharmawiki as a full-time research assistant since December of 2017. Currently, she is pursuing her doctorate studies in Sanskrit from the University of Mumbai, where she is also a visiting faculty, and she presents research papers in different seminars and conferences all over India. Trained in Bharatanatyam under the tutelage of Padma Shri Guru K. Kalyana Sundaram Pillai of Sri Rajarajeswari Bharatanatyam Kalyana Mandir, she has given many performances as a part of the Institute's productions. As a Carnatic music vocalist, she has also won many awards in various competitions. She is also a recipient of Sri Shanmukhananda Bharataratna Dr. M.S. Subbalakshmi Fellowship in Music by Sri Shanmukhananda Fine Arts and Sangeeta Sabha, Mumbai, for the period of 2019 to 2021. At Dharmawiki, she is credited with the creation of well-researched articles across categories like Vedanta, Dharma, Shastra, Yogas, Temple, and Education series. She is one of the main contributors in the Sanskrit translation project of IKS-based mathematics curriculum for school children. She is highly self-motivated, and she is involved in developing a framework of for articles, author induction criteria, policies, protocols, and she constantly connects with scholars, students, and other institutes towards the goal of increasing our contributor base. Spreading Dharma far and wide being her goal, she is always active in social media, and she took part in initiation and maintaining the social media presence for the Wiki project on various platforms, be it Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, etc. She was instrumental in setting up Dharmawiki newsletters and conceptualizing Dharmawiki shloka videos, which you can see on our channel, YouTube channel. So she continues to work with digital content creator interns on strategizing and creating relevant content to build the social media presence further on this project. Welcome to the talk, Kankavaliji. We look forward to listening to you today on this topic of Shraddha and Bhakti, a conceptual exploration. We also request the participants to kindly remain on mute and post any questions that they may have in the chat box only. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation where all the questions will be addressed. So Kankavaliji, over to you now.
Thank you so much, Nishtalaji, for that very generous introduction. I hope my screen is now visible.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. So, as mentioned, the topic that we will be exploring together today is Shraddha and Bhakti, a conceptual exploration. The broad themes for this particular topic that have been chosen will begin with an overview on the concept of Shraddha. What are the different connotations in which we find the use of the term Shraddha in the Indian Shastras? Second, we will look into how Shraddha and Bhakti are interrelated to each other, moving over to the different types of Shraddha as enumerated in the Bhagavad Gita, followed by exploring the relation between Shraddha and conviction of the mind, Shraddha as conviction of the mind, and how it is related to strength of one's mind, moving further to seeing how Shraddha plays an important role in individual choices that we make in day-to-day life. Then we will try to understand how Shraddha forms an integral aspect of spiritual practice, finally concluding with trying to understand certain conceptual confluences between Shraddha and Bhakti. Can somebody just confirm if the screen is moving forward?
Yeah,
yes,
the theme slide is visible.
Yes. So these are the broad themes I just enumerated. Moving further, we begin with a short overview of Shraddha. Basically, what are the different contexts wherein Shraddha is discussed? Number one, Shraddha in general is understood as a firm belief on a deity, person, or Shastra. Therefore, Shraddha can basically be seen as an emotion. Second context in which Shraddha is enumerated is that of a quality. It is discussed or it is described as the stepping stone to Bhakti, And it is also enumerated as one of the Shat Sampatis. Shat Sampatis are 6 qualities that are required to be developed and cultivated by a spiritual practitioner or a sadhaka. Not only is Shraddha described as an emotion and a quality, but it is also venerated as a deity. Shraddha is a deity right since the Vedic times. There is a Rigvedic Sukta in the 10th mandala of the Rigveda, wherein Shraddha is a devata. Later on in the Mahabharata, Itihasa and Puranas, we see that Shraddha is described as the wife of Dharma. Let us understand how the etymology of the word Shraddha itself helps us to understand these different contexts in which Shraddha is described. And in the process of the journey, we will also try to explore if the description of Shraddha as an emotion, quality, and deity is all mutually exclusive, or are these all interrelated in some manner? So with that motivation and purpose, we will first begin with looking at the etymology of the word Shraddha. The Sanskrit word Shraddha comes from 2 root words, Shrat and Dha. Shrat refers to belief or reverence, whereas Dha can be interpreted in 3 connotations, Dharana, Poshana, and Dana, which means Dharana, which means to hold or to have or to possess, Poshana in the sense of to nourish, cultivate, and Dana in the sense of to practice, to do. Now, the very basic understanding of Shraddha is that of an emotion that one has towards a deity, person, or Shastra. Naturally, the sense of possessing belief or reverence is conveyed by the etymology, Shrat, and Dha in the sense of Dharana. Second, Shraddha is also understood as an ability to believe in what one does not see, and its reward is in seeing what was believed in. So it is very easy to believe and trust something that is perceivable. When there is a concept which is beyond the direct perception or pratyaksha pramana, it becomes, it requires some effort to develop belief, trust, and reverence towards that those particular kind of concepts. So Shraddha refers to that ability which lets us believe and develop trust in something which is not visible to us directly in the beginning in the form of a pratyaksha pramana. And its reward, finally, at the end of a process of sadhana, the reward of Shraddha is to be able to experience what was believed in. This leads us to understand Shraddha as a quality which has to be nurtured and developed, which is reflected by the etymological association of Poshana with Shraddha. Secondly, it also brings forth the aspect that Shraddha doesn't stop at just belief. When one develops the quality of being able to believe and trust in the supreme reality, one also develops the habit to offer that particular conviction. Now, offering of conviction or reverence is what is brought forth by the association of the sense of dana in the etymology of Shraddha. Naturally, this particular aspect of Shraddha being an ability to believe in and that which rewards at the end of a process of sadhana is very beautifully enumerated in 2 verses of the Bhagavad Gita, which very interestingly come at the beginning of the Gitopadesha and towards the end of the Gitopadesha. In the first verse, Arjuna says, Karpanya doshopahata svabhavaha prichhami tvam dharma sammudha chetaha yat shreyaha syat nishchitam bruhi tanme shishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapannam. Here what we are interested in is the phrase Yat shreyaha syat nishchitam bruhi tanme shishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapanna, in which he surrenders to Lord Krishna by saying that I am confused about my dharma and therefore I ask you, I surrender to you and I believe you to give me the teachings on what is right and wrong and what is it that I am supposed to act on. And towards the end of the Gitopadesha, he says, Nashto mohaha smritir labdha tvat prasadat maya achyuta sthitaha asmi gatasangdehaha karishye vachanam tava. In this, he says that because of your grace, I have understood what is to be understood. My confusion has gotten destroyed and I have remembered what is to be remembered. And being devoid of all confusion, I now act upon your words. Now these two verses beautifully bring out the three senses associated with Shraddha. One, the ability to surrender and believe in the sense of dharana. Second, the ability to nurture it and finally get a reward at the final end of the process. And to not just stop with the reward, but to act on the experience that was received as a result of the Shraddha that was invested on the Supreme Reality. Now this leads us to understand Shraddha not exclusively just as an emotion, an ability which is developed and then which is acted upon as exclusive things, but as interrelated and as a continuous process. Therefore, Shraddha, which is born as an emotion that one holds towards a particular deity, person, or Shastra, is then cultivated, nurtured as a quality essential for sadhana. And then it is also offered as reverence. Now this quality of offering reference is nothing but reflection of bhakti, is reflected as bhakti. So the conviction that is developed as a quality, when it is practiced, it can be understood as bhakti. Therefore, we can understand Shraddha and bhakti as interrelated concepts, or what we call as the vyashti and the samashti perspective. Now, vyashti refers to an individual perspective, whereas samashti refers to collective perspective. Shraddha, an emotion held by an individual, when collectively expressed, becomes bhakti. Therefore, one way of looking at the interrelation between Shraddha and bhakti is that of vyashti and samashti. Shraddha is as the vyashti or the individual perspective, and bhakti as the samashti or the collective perspective. Then again, this concept of vyashti and samashti associated with Shraddha can also be deduced from the association of the sense of dharana in the etymology of Shraddha. To give a parallel example, another word which uses the same sense of dharana is dharma. And dharma is often explained as that which is held by an individual, dhriyate, and that which collectively holds a society together, dharati. Similarly, when the same sense of dharana is associated with Shraddha in its etymology, Shraddha can also be viewed from a vyashti and a samashti perspective as an emotion held by an individual, and when collectively expressed as a conviction, it becomes its samashti perspective, which reflects in the form of bhakti. Now, the Bhagavad Gita describes 3 types of Shraddha. It says, Trivida bhavati Shraddha, dehinam sa svabhavaja, satviki rajasi chaiva, tamasi cheti tam shrunu. In which it says that Shraddha is born out of individual nature of people and is known as Satviki, Rajasi and Tamasi, which basically means that the Shraddha of an individual is characterized by Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, which are nothing but the trigunas that are an integral part of the exposition in Sankhya philosophy. In order to understand why is Shraddha described in relation to the trigunas aspect, we will have to delve a little deeper in the concept of Shraddha and its relation to the Sankhya philosophy. As I mentioned, Shraddha is born as an emotion or a feeling. When we talk of feelings or emotions, they are very closely associated with manas or mind. In fact, it is said that all our indriyas, be it the eyes, nose, ears, skin, tongue, they are all able to perceive their sense objects. They are able to get knowledge of all the objects around them because of their connection or because of the intermediary connection of the manas. Therefore, manas is plays an integral role in the experiences of human beings. And this manas in the Sankhya philosophy is described as evolved out of Prakriti. Prakriti is the core nature in simple terms, out of which the entire creation manifests. Now, this creation or this nature or Prakriti is described as trigunatmika, which means that the sattva, rajas and tamas are integral qualities of Prakriti from which the entire creation manifests, including manas. Now, it is said that whatever exists in the cause reflects in the effect as well. So, Prakriti being the karana or the cause, since it is trigunatmika, manas, which evolves out of Prakriti, which is an effect of Prakriti, so as to say, will also have the trigunas. So, from the concept or from the point of view of the Prakriti, the trigunas are 3 material energies. And when they get reflected in the manas, they become 3 kinds of characteristics of the mind, which is explained in the Bhagavad Gita, which is quoted in the Bhagavad Gita when it says, Sattvam rajas tama iti gunaha prakriti sambhavaha. The gunas which evolved out of Prakriti are Sattva, Raja and Tama. And Shraddha being a feeling or an emotion, and manas being integral to experience of feelings and emotions, it is very natural that the Bhagavad Gita explains Shraddha from the perspective of Triguna and relates a type of Shraddha with each predominant guna. So obviously, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas exists in all of us since we are all effects of the creation of Prakriti. However, the levels of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas are not in equilibrium and are always varying. So it is the predominance of a particular guna that actually influences your thoughts, behavior, actions, etc. Therefore, Shraddha, depending on the predominance of the trigunas, is classified as Satviki, Rajasi, and Tamasi. Now, the relation of Shraddha with mind can also be understood from a quotation that we find in Viveka Chudamani, which says, Shastrasya Guru Vakyasya Satya Buddhyavadharanam Sa Shraddha Katitha Sadbhihi Yaya Vastupa Labhyate. It describes Shraddha. This is the definition of Shraddha given in Viveka Chudamani, and describes Shraddha as that which is acceptance by firm judgment of the mind or the intellect. Satya Buddhya Avadharanam. So this reinforces the integral association of Shraddha with the Manas, thereby reiterating the aspect of Shraddha being born as a feeling or an emotion related to the affected by the Trigunatmika Manas. Now, this verse not only helps us reinforce the connection of Shraddha with the mind, it also reinforces the aspect of Shraddha being an emotion that one develops towards Shastra and Guru apart from the Supreme Being or the Supreme Reality. There is one question that actually came to my mind also when there were quotations regarding Shraddha. It is generally, when they write in English, we say person and not specifically Guru. Why don't we say Shraddha is an emotion that one feels towards the Supreme Being, Guru, and emotion and Shastra? And why is the term person used? So just thinking aloud on it, we realize that the trust and belief that is developed is not only towards the Supreme Being and the Guru who leads you towards the Supreme Being. It could also refer to the trust and belief that one develops towards one's Guru Bandhus, who are also part and parcel of the spiritual journey that one takes. This particular quotation on Shraddha also reinforces the sense of conviction associated with Shraddha, which is reiterated in the Bhagavad Gita in the following verse. Sattvanurupa sarvasya Shraddha bhavati bharata Shraddha mayaha ayam purushaha yo yat shraddhaha sa eva saha. So it says that everybody's Shraddha is dependent on one's inherent qualities, which is naturally dependent on the predominance of sattva, rajas, or tamas in the individual. Moreover, this Shraddha endowed person has the ability to become what his Shraddha is. Yo yat shraddhaha sa eva saha. Therefore, Shraddha has the ability to shape a person. This is what Sri Aurobindo says while commenting on this particular verse. He says, whatever one has faith to see as possible in himself and strive for, that one can create and become. Therefore, Shraddha is not just an emotion and a random quality developed in the process of spiritual practice, but it is a conviction that helps us fructify the efforts of sadhana. And this close association of Shraddha with the sense of conviction is reinforced when the lack of Shraddha is listed alongside skepticism or doubtful nature. It is said, Ajñascha ashraddadhanascha samshayatma vinashyati nayam lokaha asti na paraha na sukham samshayatmanaha. It says that a person who is ignorant, without Shraddha and doubtful is destroyed. There is no fruit for him either in this world or the other, which reinforces the fact that Shraddha is the conviction that helps us fructify the process of spiritual sadhana. And this conviction that is so key for us to sustain and persevere in the spiritual practice is best achieved when there is predominance of sattva guna. Therefore, it is always said that one should develop sattva guna so as to develop the quality of best conviction that will help us sustain in the spiritual journey. Now, the degree of one's conviction or Shraddha naturally will depend on the strength of one's mind. Since Shraddha is very integrally associated with manas, and the strength of mind varies depending on the predominance of trigunas. This is also emphasized in Ayurveda when it is said, Sattve uttamam manobalam, Rajasi madhyamam manobalam, Tamasi mano daurbalyam eva iti. So the mental strength of a person is the strongest when there is predominance of sattva guna. Therefore, it is very interesting to also note that when Shraddha in the Vedas and later in Mahabharata and the Puranas is venerated as a devata, she is described as Satviki Devi. Since it has been explained that Shraddha is of three types: Satviki Shraddha, Rajasi Shraddha, Tamasi Shraddha. However, the type of Shraddha which is most beneficial to us is of the form of Satviki Shraddha. Therefore, when Shraddha is venerated as a devata, as a deity, it is very natural that she is venerated in her Satvika form or as Satviki Devi. This brings to light the aspect that though we find the enumeration of Shraddha in different contexts in the traditional texts of Bharata, they are not mutually exclusive and are inherently related to each other. There is a common thread that runs amidst them. Now, this also reinforces the ceaseless relation between Shraddha and the trigunas. Now, every triguna has an inherent tendency of its own. It is said, Sattvam sukhe sanjayate rajaha karmani bharata jnanam avrityatu tamaha pramade sanjayatyuta, which means that sattva has a tendency to associate the person with sukha or happiness. In fact, in the previous verses, it is described that sattva enjoins you not only with happiness, but also with knowledge. So sattva enjoins one with knowledge and thereby provides a spiritual happiness. Whereas Raja enjoins one towards activity, and Tamaha is has the quality of influencing you to be more and more lethargic and dull and confused. Therefore, it is also important when we say that Shraddha is Trigunatmika, this inherent quality that defines the nature of an individual will also define the nature of his Shraddha and thereby influence the choice one makes. In the Bhagavad Gita, different kinds of karma, as in Yajna, Dana, Tapa, etc., have been enumerated in a threefold manner. So there is Sattvika Yajna, Rajasika Yajna, Tamasika Yajna, so on and so forth for tapa and dana as well. Why is this so? Because the individual nature of an individual, inherent nature of an individual reflects in his choices, and therefore a Sattvika person chooses to do Sattvika Yajna, Sattvika Tapa, Sattvika Dana, whereas the Rajasika person will consequently choose to do Rajasika Yajna, Rajasika Tapa, Rajasika Dana, etc. But why is Shraddha an mediator between the trigunas and individual choice? All living entities have trigunas in varying quantities. So depending on the predominance of the guna, naturally we will choose a sattvika, rajasika or tamasika form of activity. Then why is there a Shraddha described as an intermediary stage and an integral stage at that, between the influence of trigunas, why trigunas and individual choices are reflective of each other? That is because Shraddha is integral to fructification of one's efforts. In the same Hitopadesha, it is said, Ashraddhaya hutam daptam tapastaptam kritam chayat asad ityuchyate partha nachatat pretya no iha. Which means that yajna, dana or tapa, which is performed, or even action, which is performed without reverence, without respect, without persistence, or without conviction, is asat, or as good as not done, or pointless. Which means that though we have the inherent qualities of the trigunas which influence our individual choices, the intermediary Shraddha makes sure that we complete the task that we take in hand. Shraddha is that ability to believe and persevere until we realize the reward of that particular action. This concept can be understood by a reference, Tirthi Kurvanti Tirthani. In the Bhakti literature, it is said that it is actually the person going on pilgrimage who actually makes the place of pilgrimage a tirtha. Therefore, Shraddha also is that which makes an individual to fructify the reward of an action. Also, Shraddha is the ability to persevere even when the fruit is unperceivable, and no action can be completed without firm resolve or conviction. And this is what Sri Aurobindo quotes when he says that Shraddha is that which will support a seeker through changes, struggles, transformation, which might otherwise dishearten and baffle. So though we are endowed with inherent qualities that influence our choice, whether we complete the task in spite of all the hurdles in the process of spiritual practice depends on the level of Shraddha and the quality of Shraddha that we develop. Therefore, Shraddha signifies that reverence and conviction that will bring efforts to fructification. So we have seen that Shraddha is indispensable to Yajna, Dana, Tapa, Karma, which are all forms of dharma in practice. Therefore, it is very interesting to note that in the Mahabharata and the Puranas, Shraddha is described along with her sisters as the wife of dharma. it says, Patnyaha dharmasya taha dasha, dvarani etani dharmasya vihitani swayambhuva. That according to the story, just a brief into the story, there are 10 daughters of Swayambhuva Manu who are given in marriage to Dharma, and these 10 wives of Dharma are described as doors to Dharma. This is a very interesting correlation in the sense that, so as to see from the story perspective, from an overt perspective, it looks like a person named Shraddha gets wedded to a person named Dharma. However, when we understand all these sisters of Shraddha as qualities, it becomes much more evident as to how these different qualities become an important gate towards us being able to perform our dharma. If you see the names, it is Kirti, Lakshmi, Dhriti, Medha, Pushti, Shraddha, Kriya, Buddhi, Lajja, and Mati. Wherein here we are talking and focusing more on Shraddha, but this same Shraddha in the Vedic Suktas is synonymous with Dhriti and Medha as well. And in later texts, there are also qualities like Pushti, Tushti, Siddhi, etc. that are added to this confluence. Therefore, when we look at the stories from the Itihasa and the Purana, from a holistic perspective of what is the actual construct of Shraddha, it becomes a more meaningful explanation of the story reveals itself to us. Now, coming to Shraddha and spiritual practice, the foundation of life in the Indian context has been described as dharma. Now, we have seen the relationship that Shraddha shares with dharma in the form of conviction that helps us perform our dharma, be it in various forms like Yajna, Dana, tapa, etc. But the final or ultimate goal of one's life in the Indian context or in the Indian Shastras is described as moksha. Now, when we see the relation of Shraddha with dharma, it is very natural for us to feel inquisitive to understand what is the role of Shraddha in attainment of moksha, which is the ultimate goal based on the foundation of dharma. So in the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Yo yo yam tanum bhaktaha shraddhaya architum ichchati tasya achalam shraddham tam eva vidadhamyaham. He says, whatever path you may choose in order to attain your spiritual goal, whatever path of sadhana you may choose, but if you wish to do that on the foundation of Shraddha, then that particular sadhana leads to fructification. This verse also highlights that one is free to choose one's spiritual practice. However, Shraddha becomes indispensable in the process of sadhana. Furthermore, it is reiterated that ye api anya devata bhaktaha yajante shraddhayanvitaha te api mam eva kaunteya yajantya vidhipurvakam. Even if, in which Krishna emphasizes that whatever path one may choose and whatever form may the deity be of whom one is devoted to, if the devotion is preceded by the intent of Shraddha, the quality of Shraddha, the feeling of Shraddha, then that person surely leads to the ultimate goal of life, which is moksha. Shraddhavan anusuyascha shrunuyad api yo naraha saha api muktaha shubhan lokan prapnuyat punya karmanam. And that final goal which one attains because of the sadhana inherently done with the quality of Shraddha is moksha, mukti, or shubhaloka. This inherent importance of Shraddha in attaining moksha becomes more evident when the Lord emphasizes that the one who is not endowed with Shraddha, what happens to them? They, not being able to reach their ultimate destination, that is Sri Krishna himself, keep coming back into this samsara and get entangled in the cycle of life, birth and death. Ashraddhanaha purushaha dharmasyasya parantapa aprapya mam nivartante martya samsara vartmani. They go back into the cycle of birth and death, not being able to attain me when their effort or their devotion is not accompanied by the feeling or the emotion of Shraddha. So in the previous quotations, we saw a repetitive emphasis on how repetitive emphasis on the fact that irrespective of the path, the goal is attained if the foundation laid is Shraddha. To understand this a little better, we will delve into the different paths that are enumerated in the Indian tradition to attain moksha. Simply speaking, it can be called the karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga. Now, karma yoga becomes integral to both the paths of jnana and bhakti as well. It is also an individual path on its own, which is described as nishkama karma in the Bhagavad Gita. But apart from that, the karma yoga also forms a stepping stone to jnana and bhakti, which lead to moksha. So when we see the path of jnana, it is said that one begins by doing karma and then evolves to the stage of upasana and then attains jnana. So the order that is enumerated in the Jnana Yoga is beginning with karma, evolving to upasana, and then attaining jnana, and through which one attains the ultimate moksha. Now, in this particular path of Jnana Yoga, Shraddha is described as one of the Shat Sampattis. So every sadhaka in the paths of knowledge is required to develop certain qualities like viveka, vairagya, shamadamadi Shat Sampat, and mumukshutvam. And Shraddha is one of the 6 qualities that is enumerated as integral to a sadhaka wishing to follow the path of knowledge. Similarly, when we come to the Bhakti Yoga, it begins with karma it is enriched with jnana and finally leads to moksha through bhakti. And the integral association or importance of Shraddha in jnana and bhakti is reflected by the two verses in the Bhagavad Gita itself, which run as follows: Shraddhavan labhate jnanam tatparaha sanyatendriyaha jnanam ladva param shantim achirat adhigacchati. So the one who wishes to follow the path of jnana towards moksha, he will be able to do so only if he is endowed with Shraddha, because it is only Shraddha that enables one to attain jnana. This can be interpreted as Shraddha being the essential quality of a sadhaka required to attain knowledge in the process of achieving moksha. Secondly, the importance of Shraddha in the path of bhakti is brought forth in the verse when Sri Krishna says, Maya veshya mano ye mam nitya yukta upasate shraddhaya parayopetas te me yukta tama mataha. Those devotees are most dear to me who do my upasana, who follow the path of bhakti, which is also synonymous to the term upasana, with complete dedication, devotion, and conviction, or Shraddha. Now, we see that in all the verses that we have explored in this journey, beginning with how Shraddha is enumerated as a concept developing into a quality which is conviction of the mind and which is integral to the sadhana of an individual, we see that there are a lot of concepts that are similar between Shraddha and Bhakti. Both Shraddha and Bhakti have the concept of conviction or determination as inherent to both of them. This is reflected when in the Bhagavad Gita it is said, Yaha yat shraddhaha sa eva saha. Whatever one wishes, whatever one has the conviction to experience, that one verily experiences because of Shraddha. That brings out the sense of conviction that is associated, intrinsically associated with Shraddha. The same thing is reflected as a quality of a bhakta as well, which brings out how bhakti also has conviction or determination as an important aspect, because dridha nishchayaha or determination is one of the most important qualities of bhakta as described in the Bhagavad Gita. Then both Shraddha and Bhakti come forth as means and end. So in the Purushartha Drishti of the Bharatiya Jnana Parampara, the ultimate goal of life is to attain moksha, and one takes different paths to attain that particular goal. This path is known as means, and the goal or moksha is known as the end. However, when we look at the concept of Shraddha and Bhakti, it seems as if the concept works as a means and end both in itself. When Krishna says, Yaha yaha yam yam tanum bhaktaha shraddhaya architum ichchati, when one chooses to devote oneself with Shraddha, then tasya achalam shraddham tameva vidadhamyaham. To those devotees, I myself endow them with Shraddha. Therefore, if you choose Shraddha as the means, you are endowed with Shraddha as the ultimate reward by the Lord. The same aspect of means and end becoming one in a concept can also be seen in the Bhakti terminology, where in the Narada Bhakti Sutras it is said, Yat prapya na kinchit vanchati atma ramo bhavati. So, obtaining which a particular person becomes desireless and contented, that is bhakti. We already have seen how bhakti is a path taken to achieve the ultimate goal. So bhakti is already in the form of bhakti yoga, a means. But when the bhakti reaches its parakashtha or its peak, then one becomes satisfied and contented in the feeling of bhakti itself, thereby giving bhakti phalarupatvam, the nature of being an end in itself. Another conceptual confluence between Shraddha and Bhakti is the concept of grace. Both Shraddha and Bhakti are conceptualized as qualities or entities that are bestowed by the Supreme Reality by pure grace. So the verse here is the same. Tasya tasya achalam shraddham tameva vidadhamyaham. Therefore, it is something that is bestowed by the Lord as a form of His grace. Similarly, bhakti is also something which is conceptual, which is understood as a result of the grace of the Lord, when in the Kathopanishad it is said, Nayamatma pravachanena labhyaha na medhaya na bahuna shrutena yameva esha vrunate tena labhyaha. The Supreme Being can be attained through bhakti only when He chooses the particular individual as a recipient of His grace and endows him with bhakti. Therefore, in the bhakti tradition, it is described as poshanam tad anugrahaha. Bhakti is that which is nourished and which is completely the grace of Lord. Another aspect which is a concept which is common to both Shraddha and Bhakti is the concept of Sharanagati. Here we go back right to the first verse from which we started this journey, wherein Arjuna says that I surrender to you and request you to tell me what is right for me and what is wrong for me. So there it describes Shraddha as Sharanagati. And Sharanagati, the same verse uses the term Shadhimam Tvam Prapannaha. And this term Prapanna is reflective of the path of Bhakti as well, which in the Bhakti Sampradayas is also known as Prapatti. Therefore, Shraddha and Bhakti, which in common parlance we use in day-to-day parlance, are both deep-rooted constructs that have been beautifully enumerated in the Indian Shastras from different perspectives as emotion, quality, as collective practice, etc., which are not mutually exclusive to each other, rather integral to each other. I would now like to conclude with this particular verse, which kind of summarizes the different points that I've tried to reveal in the course of this explorative journey, in this humble attempt of an explorative journey, which goes as follows. Shraddha purve ime dharmaha, Shraddha madhyanta samsthitaha, which brings forth how dharma how Shraddha is integral to dharma. Shraddha dharmaha paraha sukshmaha, Shraddha jnanam hutam tapaha, Shraddha swargascha mokshascha, Shraddha sarvamidam jagat, which brings out how Shraddha is integral to Jnana, Yajna, Tapa, Dharma, as well as it is that which drives action towards the fructification of the ultimate goal, which could be moksha or swarga. Sarvasvam jivitam vapi dadyat ashraddhaya yadi na apnuyat tat phalam kinchit shraddha danam tato bhavet, which brings forth the concept of how everything, even if forsaken or given without Shraddha, obtains no fruit. So even if one gives everything to a particular process, if it is not endowed with Shraddha, ashraddhaya yadi dattam, then it becomes fruitless or pointless. Evam shraddhanvayaha sarves sarvadharmaha prakirtitaha Keshava Shraddhaya Gamyaha Dhyeyaha Pujyascha Sarvada. Finally, culminating in the aspect that Keshava is to be attained, contemplated, and worshipped through strong Shraddha alone. This talk has been based on the article called Shraddha that is uploaded on Dharmawiki.org and is majorly inspired by the work of Professor Dharam, who has given the construct definition of Shraddha based on the different verses where the term Shraddha occurs in the Bhagavad Gita. And I am extremely thankful to our professors, Professor Ganesh Ramakrishnan sir and Professor Ashish Pandey sir, who are our mentors at Dharmawiki, for giving me an opportunity to explore, learn, and express the learning through this platform. I would also like to acknowledge the wonderful support that our team has always been to each other. Nishalaji, Devashriji, Anoopji, Ayushji, and Anuragji. It's been a wonderful experience working in a team with all of them. And with this, I conclude today's session.
Thank you, Kanakavalliji, for giving us a lot of insights about Shraddha and Bhakti. I now request the participants, if they have any questions that we could take up. This is the Q&A in this Q&A session. So kindly stay in touch with us, and I'm giving the feedback form link here. Yeah. It's a wonderful topic about Shraddha and Bhakti, very good information. The vyashti-samashti perspective gives us the holistic view. I'm sure everybody would agree with that. And it also helps us understand the psychological framework, how Shraddha and Bhakti act on the human mind. So it's quite interesting to observe the intricate relationship of manas and trigunas and how they affect Shraddha, and how the trigunas influence an individual's choices, thereby affecting one's karma or actions. Shraddha and Dharma, we see, are indispensable in activities such as Yajna, Dana, Tapa, and Karma. And you have very clearly established, Kanakaliji, that with a Dharmic foundation, Shraddha is an absolute necessity for an aspirant of moksha, both in the Jnana and Bhakti margas. So we have a question here. There are a couple of questions. How to differentiate Shraddha and Andhashraddha is one question that we have.
So that actually stems from an English counterpart word, if I may use it, faith and blind faith. So I would like to explain the difference between Shraddha and faith, which would actually also help us understand how Shraddha is different from Andhashraddha. Because if we understand what are the possible differences between Shraddha and faith, it becomes easier for us to understand how Shraddha is different from Andhashraddha or blind faith. Now, when you say Andhashraddha, it may or may not be associated with reasoning. That is the exact concept associated with the English term faith as well. Now, both Shraddha and the English term faith have the words belief and reverence in their birth, in their etymology. However, when the theory of faith is expounded, at some point, the hand of reasoning is left, and faith is taken as more powerful than reasoning. That's what differentiates faith from Shraddha, because Shraddha in the Indian contexts never leaves the hand of reasoning. It may go beyond reasoning, but there is always the concept of pramanas involved in Indian philosophy. So Shraddha is explained through all the parameters of pramanas in the Indian philosophical context, and then it goes beyond reasoning. Whereas in Andhashraddha, the hand of reasoning is left or not considered. So basically, it is the link of pramana and reasoning that probably differentiates Shraddha from Andhashraddha or Shraddha from faith. If that answers the question.
Yes, I'm sure it does. There's another question, Kanakaliji. Can you give some examples of Rajasic, Tamasic Shraddha?
Basically, Rajasic Shraddha would refer to more action-orientedness, whereas Tamasic Shraddha would refer to more inactive or rather less active form of Shraddha. That is the simple way in which I can put it. When Shraddha is overburdened with actions, we may call it Rajasic. And when it is devoid of any action at all and any pure conviction at all, or when it lies idle, when Shraddha lies idle, that would probably mean Tamasic Shraddha, in my limited understanding.
So is Rajasic Shraddha seen as overemphasis on rituals? Can we say that? Is one of the other questions.
If not really overemphasis on, that's actually a tricky question. So if Rajasic Shraddha, if the emphasis on rituals is devoid of understanding, then probably it would qualify as Rajasic. I think that was a short answer, but yeah.
That's nice. Any other questions from any other participants? Okay, so if there are no other further questions, then we can conclude today's session here. Team Dharmawiki expresses heartfelt gratitude to all the participants for having taken this time out to attend today's session. We request you to kindly fill the feedback form, the link of which is posted already in the chat box. I'm posting it again here. So if you fill out this form, we can provide the certificate of participation for attending this session. And you can also stay connected with us through the social media and YouTube channel. Please do subscribe to Dharmawiki newsletters. Here is the subscription link. Yes, here is the subscription link to Dharmawiki newsletters. And it is important to stay connected with us so that you can receive the notifications of the next talk next month. And we do eagerly look forward to seeing you all at the 5th session in the Dharmawiki series, talk series, titled Conceptualization of Self, Indian and Western Perspectives. And it is scheduled on May the 13th, 2023 at 4 p.m. So we request you all to go to subscribe to Dharmawiki newsletters and receive updates regarding the upcoming sessions. Thank you one and all once again. Thank you for this wonderful session, Kankavaliji. It's a very enlightening presentation that you have given us. And I thank one and all for their participation in this program. Thank you.